For the archetypal hero, he must originate from a status quo ordinary world. For Luke Skywalker, this original dormant setting is Tatooine, the desert planet. For Skywalker, this home is a rough and unforgiving landscape, but it also houses his idea of normal life. In comparison to Beowulf, this ordinary world can be equated to Geatland, or Beowulf's homeland. Within the ordinary world of Luke Skywalker is the city of Mos Eisley. This city is full of crime and scum, but for Luke, that's just another day in the life. The plot of Star Wars uses Mos Eisley as a catalyst for pivotal events to occur, such as the meeting with Han Solo. While still maintaining the ordinary status, this subworld remains crucial to the plotline. Within Beowulf, this subworld does not exist, which is not surprising considering the multiple archetypal aspects that Beowulf overlooks. In Star Wars, this ordinary world is expanded upon early on, including the family of Luke Skywalker. He lives with his aunt and uncle on Tatooine, and they are moisture farmers. In Beowulf, the Geat warriors are talked about slightly, but are not described in great detail. In general, the two stories are similar in their light and brisk overview of the ordinary situation. This area is a docile place for Beowulf, in which he is safe and can prepare for what is to come. There is no action that takes place in the epic while in Geatland, but it acts as a status quo environment when placed against the chaos of Denmark. Not much of the story takes place on either Tatooine or in Geatland, simply because there is no need to structure it in any more way than to just make it ordinary. Before the hero leaves his ordinary world, a not-so-ordinary call comes to them through various means. This call is what drives them to the adventure that the story revolves around. For Luke, R2-D2 has a holographic image of Princess Leia in which she asks for help in the fight against the Empire. This call to adventure starts the journey for Luke and his team. It is the beginning of the real plot and story. When it comes to the archetypal hero's mentor, Ben Kenobi is easily Luke's mentor for the 4th episode. He teaches Luke of the Force and shows him the way of the Jedi to a basic level of knowledge. His drive and passion toward achieving peace in the galaxy is passed on to Luke along with his knowledge upon his death. For Beowulf, the mentor rises after the journey to Denmark has concluded. The King of Denmark, Hrothgar, seems to give the most helpful advice to Beowulf regarding the challenges he is about to face. He also provides Beowulf with the right to his meat hall in order to face Grendel. This role is for sure the mentor role to Beowulf. Hrothgar and Ben Kenobi are comparable mentors to their respective heroes. After the death of Ben Kenobi, the role of mentor switches to Han Solo for Luke. He teaches Luke real-world smarts about the galaxy and about how to deal with the situation at hand. This role is very similar again to Hrothgar. They both act as specified experts on the situation pertinent to the moment. On an archetypal basis, Beowulf and Star Wars follow the same path at the beginning of each story, with the ordinary world, call to adventure, and mentor being similar in concept and practical usage. These plot lines are the definition of an archetypal hero.
There are several motifs that occur in both Star Wars and Beowulf, as well as other archetypal storylines. One of the several recurring motifs in both Beowulf and Star Wars is the idea of nature being stronger than technology. For example, in Star Wars Episode 6, Return of the Jedi, the primitive Ewoks defeated the Empire on the planet Endor only using simple traps made from trees. This idea of nature versus technology appears in Beowulf when given the option of challenging Grendel armed with a sword or unarmed. He discerns and fights with his bare hands because he didn't want to look over-prepared. Similarly, in both stories, the supernatural as well as the forces of nature is more powerful than man-made technology. When in the climax of the movie, Luke's assault on the Death Star, he is convinced to turn off his targeting computer and trust his intuition in the Force, the all-encompassing spirit of the universe, instead of the machinery in his aircraft. In Beowulf, during the battle with Grendel's mother, again normal man-made technology fails them. This time, it is the sword Hrunting that cannot pierce Grendel's mother's skin. Luckily, there's another sword to use, one forged by the Giants, a supernatural creature, which he uses to kill him. Another archetypal motif used in both tales is the color to describe good or evil. Although this appears far more in Star Wars as it does in Beowulf, there are references to color. Hrothgar describes Grendel's mother's lake as streams like black clouds, matching the motif of dark colors representing evil, while white and lighter colors represent goodness. In Star Wars, quite expectedly, the uniform of the dark side of the Force are black cloaks with red lightsabers, whereas the uniforms of the Jedi are white with blue and green lightsabers. In both Beowulf and Star Wars, another motif is that of characters connecting through their weapons. In A New Hope, Ben Kenobi, aka Obi-Wan Kenobi, passed the lightsaber of Luke's late father onto young Jedi Luke Skywalker. Ultimately, Luke must assemble his own lightsaber, and relating to the color motif again, dons the green blade of his mentor Yoda, rather than revert to the blue blade of his turned evil father. After humiliating him at Harran, Unferth bestows his favorite sword, Hrunting, onto Beowulf. While it might not glow blue and hum, it was a significant gesture back then to give someone your sword. This symbolized your service to them. Unfortunately, Hrunting fails Beowulf when it is needed most, during the battle with Grendel's mother.
Throughout the trilogy, Luke Skywalker gains and loses many allies who help him against the enemies and tests he faces, just as Beowulf gains and loses allies throughout his trials. One of the most famous duo to aid Skywalker is Chewbacca and Han Solo. Solo and Chewie fight alongside Skywalker against the Empire. Solo was not raised to have the best of morals, but he nearly gives his life for his friends multiple times. Chewie, on the other hand, simply cared for those he traveled with. He was always by their side, ready to fight like the Geats, ready to help Beowulf. Like Chewie, Ewoks weren't able to communicate very well besides showing their loyalty through their actions. They helped repel the Imperial forces from Endor alongside Luke Skywalker. The Ewoks played the same role as the Danes in Beowulf by assisting the hero whenever possible, but ultimately leaving the heaviest task for the hero. The most famous villain in Star Wars is Darth Vader. Though he is Luke's father, young Luke fights against him in his Dark Empire for the whole original trilogy until he finds out the truth. Vader is like Grendel because he too has a parental figure that is upset about his death. Soon after defeating Darth Vader, Luke has to confront Darth Sidious. Like Unferth, Jabba the Hutt did not pose a threat to the surrounding area on the scale of Luke's primary opposition. Although Jabba caused more of a problem than Unferth, he was quickly defeated in order to rescue Leia. As Luke discovered his heritage and the special powers he possessed, he found the wise mentorship of Yoda. Through many tests and trials, Luke was able to gain a foothold in the Force and grow through other experiences. Beowulf also received advice from someone who knew his father. Beowulf learns of Grendel's habits and where his mother lives from King Hrothgar. Blowing up the Death Star was arguably his greatest achievement. In this quest, he faced an incredible number of trials, like the millions of Imperial troops trying to stop him, his own father pursuing him, and finding the only tiny weak point that led to the destruction of the giant space station. Beowulf faced similar odds when facing his final enemy. Without his ally, Beowulf would have failed his quest in killing the dragon.